Hello and welcome to another Critical Twits RPG Basics, where today we talk about how to keep your role-playing game campaign alive.
TPR?
Yes! Hello and welcome to the Critical Twits. I'm Brian Ennis.
And I'm Aaron Ravinsky.
Today's episode is all about tabletop role-playing games and part of our RPG Basics series. In previous episodes, which you can go back and look at, you can't look at a fucking podcast episode. Jesus Christ.
You can look at it. You won't get anything out of it, but you can look at them.
I've ballsed that up already. We covered how to create compelling player characters, how to run a game as a DM or storyteller or Grand King Poobah, as it's known in some systems. And we talked about how to build your parties for better games. We also talked about great one-shot and filler RPGs for sort of that one gaming night where you just want to role-play or try something different. But that's not what we're talking about, Aaron.
No.
What do we mean when we talk about a role-playing game campaign?
We mean a... Normally weekly, as that's how most people tend to play role-playing games.
Yes.
A reoccurrence of the same system and setting and characters that you come back to multiple times over in order to tell a complete story from beginning to end over multiple sessions.
That's a really good definition. You can put the dictionary away now.
Ding!
So it's like episodes of your favourite TV show, linking together to make a longer story. So the same recurring characters in the same place or in a series of locations that are but the same kind of world, doing what they do best, whether that be killing monsters and earning treasure or trying to overcome the horrific curse of vampirism and learn what it is to love again. It's kind of the last two games I played. So we're going to talk a little bit about roleplay campaigns.
Yeah.
And why we love them and why we think they're amazing. Because I personally think, and we'll get into this later, I think they're kind of a really good role-playing campaign is probably my favourite thing to do for fun.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yes, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But we're going to talk about some of the problems that can come up when you're trying to stitch together this story over a long period of time, and when you're trying to kind of manage the players, manage real life circumstances, manage a long story. I mean, if you take any kind of long form of fiction, whether that's a fantasy trilogy, whether that's 8 series of the same American drama, they tend to be the ones that go for that kind of thing. They fall apart. Game of Thrones is falling apart as far as I'm concerned, for instance. And so we're going to look at some of the problems that might come up, some ways to fix it, some of the practical things you can do within your session to try to avoid these problems coming up in the first place. Finally, we're going to finish with how to make your RPG campaign finish with a bang and not a whimper. Thank you, T.S. Eliot. This is how the campaign ends. This is how the campaign ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. That's my serious poetry voice.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah?
Good, yeah.
Big fan of The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, Aaron?
I quite enjoyed his rendition of Super Mutants. They were fairly representative.
You Philistine. We talked about what a campaign is. It is the same characters, generally, engaging a long-form story. Now, you can have an episodic campaign where every session, be that weekly, be that fortnightly, be that monthly, each session is kind of its own self-contained thing.
Yeah.
So, a bit like if you take TV shows, you might have something like The X-Files was one of my favourites for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You'd have what they'd call like Monster of the Week episodes where, Mulder and Scully would go out and they'd be like, there's no such thing as pirate monsters, and then everyone's got an eye patch and tentacles by the end of the episode, and then it all goes back to normal afterwards.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a TV default, isn't it? If you're kind of comparing it to TV. What the X-Files started to do was bring in like a longer overarching story that would take a season or more to pay off.
Yeah.
And I enjoy those kind of campaigns where there's there's kind of this, you might be fighting this thing this week or solving this murder next week, but it turns out they're kind of linked.
Yeah.
Or you could do the kind of thing they do in Game of Thrones, The Wire, Sopranos, where everything, it's just one long story.
Yeah.
And you might not, everything might link together and you might not finish a section, if you like. There might not be clearly delineated adventures or missions or investigations to undertake.
Yeah.
And it's actually everything just kind of flows together. And I've done all three types, actually. And I kind of like the last two the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, something where it's kind of episodic in that old TV style, but nothing really changes.
Yeah.
I like to have that overarching thing. Yeah. Have you played all the types? No.
I played episodic stuff because we've played the sprawl and things like that. So that's a thing. Your character will essentially grow, but stay pretty much the same.
Yes.
There's no overarching story. It's what you had to do in that week. And I've played just the long form campaigns where it's just one big story that carries on one to the next. That
tends to be what I default to as a DM.
Yeah.
Because I'm not very good at knowing when to stop.
Fair enough.
And I say this to you as one of my players from a 24-hour roleplay game that we did for charity a couple times.
Yeah.
Did I ever finish telling the bloody story in that 24 hours?
You got very close. But
no, because I overindulge myself.
You did write a deliberate endpoint in the second one we did, well, that I did with you. You had a distinct one in mind, and you brought us right to that area, and then we just ran out of time.
Yes.
So you tried. You did try.
I did try, but life is hard.
And 24 hours isn't enough, apparently.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well, is that depending on how often you play, like I'm currently playing in 2 campaigns, one as a player and one as a DM. In the one I play more regularly, it's every week, but we probably get 3 or 4 hours of role play in.
Yeah.
In my fortnightly game, we sit down at the table and we role play for 12 hours.
Yeah.
So although it's not as often, we're getting more role play in.
Yeah.
And actually those players are more focused. Which I think is down because it's on a Saturday, it's on the weekend.
Yeah.
People have kind of woken up. This is the thing we're doing today. The other game's on a Friday night. Everyone's tired from work.
Yeah.
Also haven't seen each other, so
you want to catch up a little bit.
Yeah. If you block out 12 hours and you spend an hour of that at the beginning talking, doesn't matter. If you block out 4 hours, you've lost a core of your session.
Yeah.
And all sessions take time to build up momentum, and that kind of thing. So it's just a different feel.
Yeah.
It might be something we could discuss in more detail in a future podcast, how to make the most out of your sessions on an individual basis.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I will write that down.
Yes, please let us know.
I have a podcast notepad thing on my phone where I just write down ideas. Because, you never know when inspiration's going to strike. Why are they good then, Aaron? Why is an RPG campaign fun? Because you could go your entire RPG playing life not playing a campaign. You might just play things that last for a couple sessions or 4 or 5 sessions at most.
Yeah.
Have one self-contained, almost like a film, if you like. So using sort of TV metaphors, you play the film, you're done. Not doing the whole kind of like a series of a TV show, which is what a good campaign feels like to me.
Yeah. It's the character growth, and not just yours, but the people around you as well. Because what's one of the big things I really enjoy, it really does help you get into the character.
Yes.
Into what they want, and thinking long form for it, knowing that the goal you want, particularly at that point in time, might be months away potentially from you actually achieving, just like in real life.
Yes.
So really having to properly think and plan things, and really getting to know the world you're in. And it's like having a collective campfire story that you're telling. I think I've brought this up before in previous ones.
Yeah.
But just watching that take form and shape, and it helps it become distinct in its own entity after a while. The singular sections, like cool, like film, you've watched it, you remember it. It's not like they're not distinct, you do remember it, sort of thing. But this is a big, important concept that you've essentially created.
Yeah, I think it's why people like things like big fantasy novels and big fantasy series and long-running TV shows. You can get lost in it.
Yeah.
You can you can kind of slip into that world easier the more you've been in and out of wherever it is, whether it's you're playing like modern day superheroes or grimdark, gritty fantasy. You kind of you get into the mood easier. You can kind of take on the mantle of that character more easily as well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what our group defaults to.
Yeah.
We've just finished a couple months worth of role play in a single story.
Yeah.
And it was like, what campaign are we doing next? Not what are we playing next.
Yeah.
What campaign is next? I can think back to characters I've played for long periods of time, and they feel like real people to me.
Yeah.
Which might mean I have a serious mental illness and should be locked up, key thrown away.
Possibly.
This man's got a tenuous grip on reality, and at any moment he could do anything. I'd love people to say, we don't know what Brian's going to do next. I'd like that.
I was just thinking that. I was like, I'm not entirely sure that's a negative thing in my brain.
Yeah.
That's worrying.
Yeah. Never mind. So I feel I could slip into those characters whenever I like. And actually, because I DM, I kind of steal things from old campaigns and reuse them when I've got new players. So I've used old player characters, but I've also used other characters that other players have played alongside me or in my games, and I just throw them into new situations as NPCs.
Yeah.
Because they've been so distinct and so fully fledged, they feel like real people. Because if you're playing a one-off game, you might only see that character when they're angry and they're fighting the thing, and then when they're happy because they've killed the thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you played a long-form campaign that's got a lot of varied sort of textures and moods, you've seen that character happy, sad, angry, lonely.
Dealing with grief.
Yeah. There's all these things, and they start to feel more and more real. We've used a lot of TV sort of metaphors, but it's like reading a good book, if you like.
Yeah.
And I love being able to tell all these long stories about this happened and then this happened and then that happened. Hence why I have a podcast.
Yeah.
But I really love a good campaign. Now it can be a bit too much for a brand new DM to bite off and chew in one go.
Yeah.
If you're new to running games, or if your players are new to playing, don't start with, yes, we're going to play from first level peasants up to 20th level demigods. It will take 4 years. And these are the 7 things that have to happen on the way. That's too much.
Yeah.
Because there is an art to running a campaign. Always be ambitious, but start small. Start with an adventure and then go, do you want to carry on? Do you want to try something new? And if they're like, we want to carry on, then maybe you've got something there with the legs to become a campaign.
Yes.
And you can sort of run from there, really.
Yeah.
That's a good way of getting a campaign off to a good start.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you might find that your players may play a character that they've not got as invested in as they maybe thought when they started.
Yes, yeah.
So, having played that adventure, you give them an opportunity. That at that point is a nice opportunity for them to maybe tweak that character or throw it away and try something new that maybe they've got more of a better idea of how they'll run with and play with.
Yes.
That isn't going to ruin your story in any way, shape, or form because you've had an endpoint and you're starting something new.
Yeah.
So it's safe.
Yeah. Now we talked about in our How to Run a Game session, in our How to Run a Game podcast,
yes,
all about the idea of session 0. So I'm not going to go into all the detail here. If you want to sort of check that out, it's in that podcast.
Yeah.
Which is episode. What episode number is it, Aaron? You know. Episode 47. Good guess, dude. Really? Oh shit! I should have let you.
Well, I think I'll probably go. I think 49 was coming in.
Oh, there's too much dead air, mate. Too much dead air. Can't have dead air on the radio. Stroke internet. So, the basic idea of a session 0 is a way to sort of plan ahead. Now, if you're going to run a one-off game, if you're going to run a one-off session of something, or sort of 3 or 4 linked evenings, days of gaming, and then finish, as a DM, you can kind of be a bit selfish and say, I want to run a game that's like this.
Yeah.
And your players can buy in or not, as they so desire. But there's no sort of commitment for we're going to do this for a long time. With a campaign, you've kind of got that. And recently we've played a couple things that have faltered, and I think actually looking back it's because we didn't follow our own advice. There wasn't really much of a session 0.
Yeah.
It was all kind of spotty and done online, and no, we didn't sit round and do it.
Yeah.
And actually sitting down together and going, okay, what kind of story do we want to tell? What kind of characters do we want to play? And just getting some concrete ideas down.
Yeah.
Getting the players invested in the setting as well, letting them invent something that exists within the world, whether that's an NPC mentor, whether that's an organisation that they work for.
Yeah.
Some people don't like to do that, but they like to know about the background and go, oh, actually, I'll be a Knight of St. Ulfric because I read a story about St. Ulfric and he's really cool and I want to be like him, or my character wants to be like him.
Yeah.
That's cool. But because you're trying to build something long form, it's almost like planning.
Yeah.
Taking again Game of Thrones, it's fairly obvious that no one at this point has any idea how the bloody thing should end, and they're all floundering around, drowning horribly, especially poor George Martin in the story where he's got more characters than I've had hot dinners, and he can't eat them quick enough. Does that work as a metaphor?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
Cannibalistic, that metaphor.
Yeah,
it works.
That works because there's a bit where some people are putting a pie.
Yeah, that's true.
Which he stole from Shakespeare. And that's fine because Shakespeare is notoriously non-litigious now he's dead. Have you done a session 0 with us?
Yes. In fact, it was built into the campaign. I think we brought it up in the session, Mutant Year 0.
Yeah.
Which did it wonderfully.
Yeah, so our Mutant Year 0 review is out there again. Which podcast number, Aaron?
62.
Have you just looked this up?
Nope.
It's episode 41. We did it just before the How to Run a Game.
I thought we decided to tell people how to run a game, then decide to describe a good example of it.
Yeah.
Curses. But yeah, I mean, that system kind of made you not only create your characters, but help create where your characters are all based, the arc, sort of where on the map, what that looked like, what resources you had available to you.
Yeah.
All the little bits and pieces that helps you cement a little bit of history and kind of encourage you to build relationships with characters because you knew they're all locked in this little area together.
Again, if you're only going to be playing a character for 6 or 12 hours, you don't really need to know about Throg the Barbarian's relationship with his mother.
No.
If you're going to play him for like 1,000 hours...
When you say that, I mean, if he's fighting his mother at a later date during that campaign, he might need to. But, But you're playing it for thousands of hours, it will come up.
Yeah. I almost started a sentence with, as a writer, and then I wanted to strangle myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as a writer. At least I didn't say, as a mother. Speaking as a father.
I called myself a content creator the other day and wanted to kick myself.
Created any good content lately, Aaron?
In my toilet bowl, yeah.
Oh, fucking hell. That was weird. So where the fuck were we? It feels a bit like the difference between writing a short story and a novel.
Yeah.
In a short story, everything needs to serve that purpose and get you to the end and be relevant.
Yeah.
In a novel, you've got much more breadth to go on tangents and have side stories and multiple plot arcs and sort of, again, texture to the characters' lives, things that are interesting to them that might not be the greatest thing, but really sort of inform the character and are developed as you go along.
Yeah.
So I like that session 0, and I like that idea of allowing the players to have a hand in helping sort of build the world, set some of the things. Not always easy for new people.
No.
Again, serving them up something, saying, this is what you're doing, do you want to carry on? Cool. You can then actually say, okay, so we're done with, you've saved the village of Abernathy from the Jabberwocky. What do you want to do now? And
you're like, go back through the looking glass, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, cool. So where's your character from? What are they interested? Why did they come on this adventure? And you can kind of almost do it a little bit later.
Yeah.
And then use that as kind of fodder for your storytelling. This helps avoid the first of our problems, which is a lack of player investment.
Yeah.
So a campaign often dies because the players don't feel invested in what's going on. The typical RPG fantasy trope of you meet in a tavern, there is a poster on the wall that says the princess is missing. Yeah. You all go to the or you're all in the same village when it gets attacked. now you're adventurers together for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work. It's fine for a one-off and you do the thing, but why do the characters care about each other? Why do they want to be together? Why do they want to carry on? What's driving them? And that, again, that helps. They need that investment in something.
Yes.
And it can be investment in each other.
Yeah.
I played 2 characters once in a game because we were short on players.
Yeah.
So I had one character who was very, very talkative and did the party healing.
Yeah.
Which is the character I wanted to play. And then we needed a fighter. So I made a mute fighter who was her brother, or adopted brother, who was enormous and never said anything.
Yeah.
And I played both of them.
Yeah.
And essentially the DM kind of ran the character as well. And we all actually at different points played Titan, that character.
Yeah.
We played different things that he did. And it was just kind of like a group character.
Yeah.
But there was no way that they were going to leave each other. So as long as one of them had a reason to be there, the other one was like, we're best buds, bro. We're doing this shit.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I've got your back. Got your back.
Yeah. But I came into that campaign late. Because you guys had played it for ages and you were having a brief break from it. I joined you, we played some other stuff.
Yeah.
And then the person in the campaign was like, cool, I want to go back to Rise of the Rune Lords, which is the campaign we were playing.
Yeah, one of the Pathfinder adventure paths. The premier Pathfinder adventure path.
Yes.
And having tried the second big one, still the premier.
Yeah. And I think it was like the last chapter, essentially, of this big story that was all going together. And rather than creating a whole new character, because it would make no sense coming into it, I essentially took over Titan.
Yes.
But was given slightly convoluted, but it made sense in the context of what we needed to do. A reason for Titan to then start speaking.
Yes, yeah. It being a magical fantasy world, it was kind of a thing that could happen, and it was fine.
I hideously struggled with that, though.
Because you didn't have the backstory.
Yeah, I'd heard loads of the stories, so I had some concept and idea, but because I hadn't been there for all the sessions, I couldn't get invested. Not because the character wasn't interesting or cool, but because I didn't know enough to invest myself in that.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
feel integrated with the rest of the party.
Yeah.
And that floundered the campaign somewhat.
Yeah, it would have been better if you'd made your own character and we come up with a proper reason for you to be there.
Yeah.
Right off the top of my head, we find out that the Titan I've been travelling with all this time is a doppelganger, and the real Titan had been kidnapped and taken away and had his own adventures and had finally made his way back.
Yeah.
You could be the same character, give you the character sheet, but it's like, it's not you. You're a different one. That would have been odd, or you could have been someone else that came in at a different point, and that's fine.
It's crossed the sea from somewhere and it's become really powerful.
The doppelganger thing, it was used by a DM of mine in a thing. Yeah, a player didn't make it one week, so their character hung around and did some stuff, but actually they were a doppelganger.
Yeah.
That was really good, actually. That was quite fun. Never did find out what was really going on there, but it was fun at the time.
That was, again, that's not something that, the DM sort of tried to find a way of getting me into the system and stuff. It just didn't work because of that thing. I could quite easily have stepped forward and asked, I need detailed history on everything that's happened with time, so I understand everything that's going on. And I didn't. Being lazy, to be honest.
Yeah, but you also don't want 400 pages of exposition, because we've been playing that game for nearly 2 years at that point.
Yeah, that's true. There was ways and means around it that didn't adopt, so it knocked things back a little bit.
Yeah.
Took some of the edge off.
So I've massively jumped ahead.
Cool.
Because rule 1 should be, don't be a dick. No. Rule 1 should be, if it's not fun and people aren't enjoying it, don't do it.
Yeah.
This is to save something that was fun or is fun but just isn't working or can go back to being fun. If you try some of these things and it just doesn't work and you're not enjoying it, don't grind out a story for the sake of just sheer blooded-minded stubbornness. I can't talk, I can't do words.
It's fine.
Yeah. No, it's not on a podcast. Don't try to force it too much.
No.
But we've had games like that Rise of the Rune Lords campaign was grinding to a halt, and we had a break, we did something else, we came back to it, and we finished.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Yeah.
So there are ways to sort of get it back to being to being fun. So that's rule 1.
Yeah.
Consider the previous tip rule 2.
Yeah.
Tip 1. And that leads me nicely then to another problem that can afflict campaigns, which is the idea of burnout. So anything that's fun is normally more fun at the beginning than it is at the end.
Yeah.
Because it's full of possibility, it's exciting. Maybe the middle's good because you get good at a thing.
Yeah.
But there's always comes a point where no matter how much you like ice cream, you can't eat any more ice cream.
Yeah. It's become bloated.
Yes.
Well, you've become bloated in the case of ice cream, but...
Yeah, I was going to use a hideous sexual metaphor there, and I didn't.
Well done.
Feel free to insert your own, Aaron.
No.
Okay. So burnout. I mean, I've got burned out as a DM.
Yeah.
Running various campaigns actually, where lots of little things were kind of making it awkward, and I had ideas for other things, and I wasn't as interested in the story as I had been. I had kind of like an idea for 3 or 4 story beats, and I hit them all, and I didn't have one to follow it up.
Yeah.
But we weren't necessarily at a point to finish it. One of the things I do as a DM, you'll be able to probably confirm this, is I throw out hooks for story like crazy.
Yeah.
And then I forget about some of them because I just threw out a thing, and then someone's like, oh, I want to do this, and I'm like, oh shit, I've made no plans.
Yeah.
And I just had too much caffeine that night, and I have no idea where that was going to go.
As a general rule, you hide it very well. Feel free to tell me to stop if this is going to spoil something you don't want me to discuss it.
Okay, no.
But there was, and I can't remember the system we used for it, but we were playing in a kind of post-apocalyptic fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
We entered these caverns, which we were told not to look back.
Oh, yeah. I've reused that recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what's made me remember this particularly.
Yeah.
So we go down and get sort of lost in the caverns.
Yeah, it's a big tunnel. It's a giant tunnel, like a man-made, machined tunnel, big, huge thing. Yeah, that you could fit a dragon down.
And you're essentially told if you look back, something horrible is going to happen to you, and you will just disappear.
To the point where the people guarding you had blindfolds on, so they physically couldn't look back.
Yeah.
No one had any lights. They were walking through the darkness. Yeah.
Part of the story beat we played was we got sort of distracted into an off chamber to one side.
Yeah.
And you go in and you get a little bit lost in this sort of mini maze kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you'll get back to the tunnel eventually.
Yeah.
And with the side tunnel being on your left.
Yeah.
And you come back out of it, your instinct then is to turn left, because if you turn right, you're going back on yourself and everyone's going to look back. So we turned left.
Yeah.
And went down that way.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact,
yeah,
because you've told me,
yes,
you've recently had a group of players who decided that turning right would be a good idea.
Yeah, so I've used this setting 3 times.
Good setting.
Thank you. It's a homebrew setting. It's a post-apocalyptic fantasy setting. And I think I've talked about it a bit before on the podcast. But yeah, that particular tunnel, you can't look back. And it's all a little bit time-dilated. Horror, things are whispering, things are trying to tempt you to go backwards. It's got kind of horror vibe to that particular bit. And it's always kind of left players a bit unsettled, and people seem to remember that bit. So I've used 3 different groups in sort of 3 different versions of the set. We've done the same thing. Yeah, and my players the other week, 2 of them ran out of the tunnel and turned right and went back the way they'd come.
Yeah.
Now, I first came up with this idea about 7 years ago, and I realised I couldn't remember what was supposed to happen when they turned, if they went back, if they looked back, because everyone's been so massively paranoid about it. And so I hope they're not listening. Well, I hope they are listening, but I had to kind of like really think and be like, okay, so what actually happens? I had to kind of write my own setting again.
Yeah.
But that's something I do. I throw out too many plot hooks. And I kind of get myself lost or distracted down tangents, or the party follows something and doesn't pick up on something or doesn't care about something.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly realise, like, oh shit, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And that's when I start to feel burnt out, because I feel that pressure of, shit, they're coming round on Saturday and I've got to have an adventure and I can't remember what I was doing. That's what burns me out.
Yeah.
I know some people just get burnt out from running, because it is a very different skill. It's a very different experience around the table.
Very intense, I'd imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I I can always judge how a session is going as a DM by how few of my snacks I consume.
Oh yeah, okay.
So, like as a player, and in our main roleplay group, we take turns running the game. So, as a player, when it's not my turn to run a particular arc or a particular 6 months or whatever we're doing, I'll buy a big bag of snacks and eat them all.
Yeah.
And then I'll start running again, and I'll buy the same big bag of snacks, and then I'll take a giant bag of snacks home, and possibly my dinner that I didn't eat, because you're doing everything all the time, and actually it can be quite physically and mentally tiring to run consistently. So, as we already mentioned, we took a break from Rise of the Rune Lords. We took a break from Mutant as well.
Yeah, we did,
and came back to it. Really, you can kind of do anything that you want in those breaks.
Yeah.
What have we done in those breaks?
We've tried a couple of new systems out.
Yeah.
We played Call of Cthulhu, sort of mini adventure, I'd say.
It was like a mini campaign, wasn't it? It was kind of
you planned for
2 months, wasn't it, roughly?
Yeah, I was going to say about 6 to 8 sessions. I think
Yeah.
Tried out Sprawl.
Yeah,
delivery episodic,
which we really like because it's episodic. It fits really nicely in there, and it's still waiting for us to go back to.
We've had other players who wanted to DM who've had their own story to tell, who have then done their own campaign in that period.
You can sometimes lose the momentum of a campaign if the break is massive, and we've got a few campaigns. And a friend of podcast, Rob, is the kind of guy, he doesn't like to leave a story hanging.
Yeah.
And he sometimes says to me, like, "Oh, I'd like to go back to this," and I go, "Shit, that was 7 years ago. I can't remember. I mean, I can remember the gist of it. I can remember that I was a peasant who got plague and got tossed into a plague pit and set on fire.
Okay.
They thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And then he woke up and he was still alive. And so he worshipped the cleansing power of the fire. Still can't work out if he still had plague that was infecting people as he went. I don't think so. But that would have been quite funny.
Yeah.
And also kind of the plot of a fantasy novel I've read recently.
There's nothing wrong with a bit of stealing.
Yeah. And I can remember bits of what we did.
Yeah.
But the campaign kind of fizzled out, and I'm like, what were we doing? What was that guy's name?
So it's going to end up taking you a few sessions to get back into it enough to understand what's happening.
Yeah, because it's like turning around and saying, Aaron, what was your name a TV series you haven't watched in 10 years?
Yeah, the X-Files, actually.
The X-Files. Yeah. Can you remember everything that happened in the X-Files?
No, not the overarching story.
Yeah, what happened in series 3, episode 21?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
someone's ran through some trees. I don't know.
Yeah,
normally happens in most episodes. I can remember bits and pieces, distinct episodes that stood out.
Yeah,
but the overarching thing.
Yeah, I mean, whose side did you think Director Skinner was really on?
Oh, it's
it's an important X-Files thing.
Yeah.
All the way through, but
I think when I last remember watching it, I think he was on their side, but I'm not too
But it's
sure.
hard to remember, isn't it? Yeah, and that's the kind of thing with it. Is it's like it was a good campaign and I was enjoying it. It fizzled out for outside of game reasons.
Yeah,
but I couldn't go back to it because my brain would hurt.
Yeah.
And this is where that idea of my homebrew setting, I've run 3 different groups through it now because they're different people and there's been a gap and it's kind of a new story.
Yeah.
And I changed the setting completely in some ways.
Yeah.
And I've also reused characters that other people have played in the setting and just picked them up and plonked them in my game because I'm like, that's an awesome character. It deserves to live on.
Yeah. I really like that idea. It's a nice way of remembering past campaigns and having nods to them without it being really sort of cliched or anything, and sort of saves you a bit of work as well.
I've done a thing as well where I've run something again. I've used my hero from one campaign in a completely different world, but I took the idea and it still fit, and made him the bad guy of the next campaign that I ran for a different group. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, so it's like I really knew the big bad evil guy really well, so I knew what he'd do.
Yeah,
be like, cool, this is the information he's got. He'd do this, and then that just sparked off the next adventure and the next adventure, and then they killed him. It's fine because it's not real.
Yeah.
It's not like committing something to paper or filming it, and that is what happened. It's almost like fan fiction where you can do whatever you like with the different characters and play around with it. Or like comic books do it.
Yeah,
and it annoys me in comic books because I like to know what the real thing is. But actually, you can be they're quite playful, and they'll have
alternative universes.
Zombie Batman.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
It is a thing. Yeah. or a episode of a comic series of the Punisher in 100 years in the future where he's murdered every single person on the planet. Yeah.
So when it comes to Burnout, just mix things up. Have someone else run. There's no point trying to force it because it will show.
Yeah.
And ultimately, back to rule one, you should be having fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes players burn out as well.
Yes.
And that can be for slightly different reasons.
Yeah.
Have you burnt out as a player?
I will be honest. I'm at the point of burnout at the moment.
Okay.
It's taken me longer than it should have done to realise that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes you can be burnt out but not realise it. I mean, I've had this in real life where I was like, I left a job, got a new job, and went, shit, I should have done this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I really wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise.
Yeah.
You just kind of get up and do it, don't you?
But I've noticed that, I haven't written any history for a couple of the characters I've played recently, which has made it very difficult to roleplay because I don't actually understand what their motives and everything are.
Yeah.
But it's been nothing to do with the other players. It's been nothing to do with DM. They've done nothing at all wrong. It has just literally been, real life has been very exhausting. Some of the systems have had maybe a little bit too parallels for real life for me personally. I haven't realised. And it's just taken its toll on me. So I'm taking a little mini break from it in order to recoup and just rest a little bit. Before coming back again. It's not something I want to step away from completely. I think I'm grateful that I managed to pinpoint that at this point before I forced my way through a number of campaigns, potentially ruined it for other people because I'm not invested.
Yeah.
That is always a risk. And then got to a point where I don't like playing role-playing games anymore. Yeah. And it's not really actually the fact that I don't like playing role-playing games anymore, so I'm just trying to force things too much.
You've touched on like 3 different things that are on my list, so I'm going to try to quickly do it.
Well,
so we talked about the idea of investing your players.
Yeah.
That investment drives story. Mm-hmm. You've got to allow the players to affect the world.
Yes.
And to do things that make them invested. So one of the best things that ever happened in one of my games was the players decided they lived in an area that was known as the North because I was young. I think it's actually a Forgotten Realms thing, like the North, and then it's different areas.
Yeah.
But I kind of blocked out a bit of a forest, knocked a few clearings in it, and went, "This is my bit." And I did what I liked in it. And they turned around and they said, "We want to create an adventuring guild stroke," and this is where it was funny because there was a very lawful character who was like, I want to create an order of knights who will protect the North, and then the chaotic characters were like, we want a loosely aligned band of individuals who will come together when the time is right in order to and it was very different, and they created the Knights of the North. And they made a thing in my game, and suddenly they were a group and they were an organisation and they had goals. They wanted to protect the North.
Yeah.
That drove stories for me because I could just have someone knock on their door and go, I need protecting. Not quite that simple, but they just turn up and it's like cool and they're invested. It sounds a little bit like you don't quite know who your character is, you don't know what your goals are.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of drifting through the story and you don't know how to affect the world.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, who's that character's best friend?
No.
So the DM can't put that friend in peril.
Yeah.
Your character can't go to that friend for help.
No.
You can't have a tender scene with that character just to break up the horror of being a vampire.
Yeah.
You can't do anything because you haven't got that. So, investing, that's your session 0, your character backgrounds are really important in that way.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about how things felt a little bit too close to home. That's, for me, that feels a little bit like a tone thing.
Yes.
We were playing a very gritty, very realistic, apart from the supernatural elements, but
very politically based
thing where there's lots of scheming and manoeuvring and awkward conversations that are taking place on multiple levels, and you're not quite sure if anyone's lying to you, and you're constrained because you're in a society where you can't just set someone on fire to solve your problems, as much as my character kept trying to. But that's me. I like being awkward. And so you maybe just need a change of tone for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if everyone's feeling that, have a break, do it.
Yeah.
Or if you're playing an episodic game or you're doing something else, you can mix it up. You can have different things. Like if you think of any long-running TV show, it's not the same tone all the way through.
No, yeah, there's occasionally the musical episode or some of this comedy.
Yeah.
Break from
you take something like Game of Thrones, it's a nice example because A, I think our audience are probably going to be familiar with it.
Yeah.
And B, it's one of the most popular things on TV.
Yeah.
It has different moods. It is a dark, horrible thing. There are nasty things happen to people.
Yeah.
But there are comic relief characters who break the tension.
Yeah.
There are moments of triumph and moments of despair. There's politics, but there's also a load of battles and murdering and death.
Yeah.
There's people doing stupid things that they shouldn't, just because that's what people do sometimes. They make bad choices.
Yeah.
And so, the tone can change. They're not locked in.
No.
So yeah, these one shots, these other campaigns are good. But I mean, I've run a game at Knights of the North. They were very much, we are based here, we go off, we do adventures, we come back. And then they followed some clues, some trails, and they ended up in a siege elsewhere. And that's a completely different tone to the rest of the campaign.
Yeah.
And they had to run around trying to sort of get support and get people in the city organised, and then went and did a battle here and a fight here and held the gate there.
Yeah.
Never did that again. But it was something they remembered because it was a slightly different tone. The characters were the same, but the feel was just slightly different, so it mixes it up.
Yeah.
The campaign with the tunnel isn't always horror.
No.
I found that horror tends to be one of the things that burns people out quickest.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. It's obviously you bring your own personal demons with you at times, and horror plays on those aspects.
Yeah.
So even if the DM hasn't done it deliberately, it can accidentally touch nerves.
Yeah.
Or just relive something that they don't want to relive.
I like that feeling of uncomfortableness, that horror that comes with it. Like feeling a bit scared because I might die horribly.
Yeah.
I like to explore dark things, but then I like a palate cleanser and I like to walk away.
Yeah.
If you think of, again, TV shows, big long-running horror TV shows.
Yeah.
You've got things like The Outer Limits and stuff, which are actually completely separate short episodes.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of really that's A, any good, and B, proper horror, because there's like the Vampire Diaries. In fact, there's two. I can think of The Walking Dead and I can think of American Horror Story. American Horror Story, again, it's one series, one story done, something different.
Yeah.
Walking Dead is different, I think, in that it's a very long-running, very nasty, horrible thing. But it still has those moments of... Is it unrelentingly bleak? I don't know. I don't really watch it anymore.
No, I haven't watched it since the first series.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not...
But no, there were elements in the first series where there were slightly comedic bits and pieces happening. That still had that horror tinge to them.
Yeah.
But... there was a little bit of slapstick in places and kind of thing and stuff like that, or more. I know a lot of the series have done this, but heartfelt, touching moments.
Yeah.
Rather than the quiet, more of the quiet horror rather than the unrelenting pressure of it, and it bounced back and forth quite well in the first series, but it's kind of died off after that.
Yeah. So feel free to mix things up.
Yeah.
One thing that a player might find difficult is playing the same character all the time. Some players are like my cat, and you shine a new thing at them and they get confused and run off and run into the wall, hurt their head and die.
Yeah.
Poor cat. Easily distracted.
Yeah.
And actually I find there's a certain breed of player that is the kind of player that will plan their character ahead, and they'll know at level 1 what they'll take at level 18.
Yeah.
Or they know as a newly formed vampire, exactly how they're going to make it to the top and what they're going to do to get there.
Yeah.
I find those players that once they get there or they get on the way, it's not as fun as making something that the potential.
Yeah.
They like building the higher level character, they like the idea, and actually they get part of the way into it and they're already thinking of the next thing because in their mind that character's completed and done.
Yeah.
I once plotted out an entire novel in meticulous detail.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 30-page document. Never going to write it because I know what happens and it's boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a balance to these things,
Yeah.
and so these people might want to try a new character. It might be that your character wants to wander off. The player isn't necessarily burnt out at that point,
Yeah.
but the character is. The character's like, I remember in one campaign we had like loads of people die.
Yeah.
And everything was horrible. And one player was just like, my character's going to go home and grow turnips. This is horrible. This is not what he expected at all.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that was a mismatch between the character he'd made and the tone of the campaign.
Yeah.
But the player was quite happy to make a new character and carry on.
Yeah.
But that character was just like, no.
Yeah.
Now, some players might like to role play through that trauma or that difficulty. But he was like, no, I'll play Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff can deal with this. It's fine.
He
Jeff's a bit of a git.
turnips.
Yeah. So that's fine.
Yeah.
As well. Real life issues do get in the way.
Yeah.
I admire anyone that can consistently commit to something over a long period of time and actually follow it through.
Mm-hmm.
I say this as someone who regularly fails to hit his weekly word count. I say this as someone who very rarely paints his models.
Yeah.
Etc. Etc.
Yeah.
If I don't have a deadline, I don't get shit done.
No.
And that's before, being ill, before life events.
Yeah.
We lost a player from our group because he had a child.
Yeah.
Or rather, his partner had a child and he watched. Pervert. And he doesn't role play with us at the moment because he has to be a father. He has to be there and do those things, and that's more important to him, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, we needed to work out a way to remove his character. Do you carry on without him? Do you send him a text message every couple of weeks and say, what would Jeff do in this situation?
Yeah.
Not that his character was called Jeff. It's just my go-to name.
Yeah, Jeff.
I think it's because I've never had a friend called Jeff. I've never really known anyone called Jeff.
Okay.
If I was to say, because Aaron did that, obviously I'd be thinking of you.
Yeah.
And I think about you enough, man.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh.
Love you. But yeah, it's you've got to work out how these things affect the game. We've had people in our games who've suffered illness, physical or mental, and have been unable to play.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can feel a bit guilty actually carrying on without them, especially if they were really invested in the game, they were really enjoying it, and you can just kind of pin a character, put a pin in it, and just be like, we'll come back to this when everyone's able to do so, and you move on.
Yeah,
that's kind of fine. I can't really give people tips on dealing with real life.
No, because it's going to depend on your personal circumstances.
Yeah. I think it comes around to the other major rule, which is don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And just communicate, which people are really bad at. We've got all these things that let us communicate. I'm waving my phone at Aaron now, being a grumpy old man. We can communicate with anyone we know instantaneously.
Yeah.
They're probably going to receive that and communicate back if we have, left an opening for them to do so.
Yeah.
Sometimes people send me messages and I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. You've made a statement. Cool, I've read it.
Yeah.
That's not a conversation. But that's a different thing. But we're not actually very good at communicating what's really going on.
Yeah.
We've had some awkward conversations around role play. I've told it on the podcast before, when one of my players burst into tears because their character was killed by another player.
Yeah.
That was awkward as fuck.
Yeah.
So it was like, time out. It's a game. Let's deal with real life. Real life is more important.
Yeah.
Sometimes people lose sight of that, or they don't realise that what they're doing in a game can upset someone in real life.
Yeah.
Or is upsetting someone in real life.
Yeah.
That's tricky, really.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's just follows rules of it should be fun. So if somebody's not having fun, address it.
Yeah, that's it. It does come back to that, doesn't it?
Even if it's just private. And again, the don't be a dick rule. If somebody's like, I need to step out of this, don't go, oh, well, fuck you, then I'm killing your character off.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Well, what do you want your character to do? Do you want them to do you want them to pass away? Do you want them to walk away from the situation for a while? Do you mind if I NPC the character for a bit?
Yeah.
Figure out something that works for both of you.
Yeah.
Like I said, even if your person's like, I can't turn up every week because I'm dealing with a child, but I can send you send me a message, I'll try and respond to it with. I'd probably do this.
One thing we've done is have more episodic style campaigns where rather than the entire party questing to Mount Doom and it's going to take a year to get there and all the characters have to go along, we've played things where they've got a base, they go out and they do stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's like mini adventures that are linked, as we talked about right at the beginning. And that sometimes allows players to drop in and out easier.
Yeah.
So if a player is experiencing real life difficulties for whatever reason, it could be something as simple as they've got a deadline at work and they can't come for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Sorry,
guys.
But you can kind of remove them easier.
Yeah.
One of the things we've done actually is when we've done other styles of campaign where that's not possible is we've established table rules for what happens if you're not there.
Yeah.
We have a standing rule in our game where if 2 players can't make it, the session doesn't run. Because there's too many people missing out, because it's just almost half your players. We've got 5. In fact, at the moment, it is half the players because we've got 4 players. One's on a more permanent sort of break due to work.
Yeah.
Fine. So if 2 people can't make it, the session doesn't run. If one person doesn't make it, they are written out as soon as is feasibly possible. That is not held against that player.
No.
And if they do have to stick around, they are run as an NPC by the DM, although the DM will probably ask one of the players to roll the dice for them.
Yeah.
So they're not just rolling dice at themselves and then saying what's happening. The players still get to do it.
It means they don't have to deal with the guilt of accidentally killing a character or something like that.
Have we actually sat down and discussed that?
I think so. I think we've actually.
Yeah, the conventions on dice rolling and the character getting written out, I feel is like the Constitution of the UK. It's just kind of set by precedent, and it's what we expect.
Yeah, I think in that respect, yeah.
But with the 2 players thing, we've decided that because it was a problem during one campaign where people weren't turning up, and eventually the DM quite rightly said, right, what do we do if, because nothing's happening, we don't know the game, it starts to fragment the game, there's no continuity, and therefore we came up with a rule. Problem solved. Sorted.
Yeah. Like you said, it stops that ill feeling towards anybody. The player knows, cool, I'm having to miss out on it. It might mean I'm written out, but,
yes,
these things happen. At least people can still have fun, that's cool. And nobody has any kind of resentment or hard feelings at that point in time.
Yes.
It's already there. It's not anything personal. It's just circumstantial.
Yeah. Now, hopefully, we're not putting people off running campaigns with this giant list of problems.
No.
As I said, I've got campaigns that finished years ago that I still remember in vivid detail. I think part of the reason actually I bring the characters back is I don't really want to let go of those characters.
Yeah.
And it's not like a film or a book where you can go and just watch it again or reread it. You can't roleplay again. Roleplay is really odd. I think one of the closest things I can think of as a comparison is like live music.
Yeah.
When you see a gig and you try to explain to someone afterwards why it was amazing, and they're like looking at you like, what?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you just had to be there. Roleplay quite often is you had to be there kind of medium.
Yeah.
Which is why I really enjoy it as well, because I can have an experience that no one else will ever have.
Yeah.
Or only the people who are around the table at that moment in time can have.
Yeah.
And we can share that, and no one else can have it. And maybe I'm just a bit elitist, I don't know, but it's nice to have memories with your friends that...
Yeah, it is.
That are special.
And even like when I was from an outside perspective and I was being told these stories...
Yeah.
Those were awesome because I wasn't there. And so it became something I could sort of watch... as people were telling the story around a table about something that happened. You see that kind of excitement in other people.
And hopefully that enthusiasm is infectious.
It is, because it makes you want to be involved in that and have one of those stories of your own with these people. And it's nice to be able... I mean, people have commented on a podcast before when we've done the RPG about enjoying hearing our stories of the tales because we're excited about them.
Yeah.
Things we've done in the past. That's what you're going to get from playing any kind of role-playing session. You will have something you can take away that is yours.
Yeah.
That is yours and your friends that you can share with other people, but will still be your thing.
Yeah.
And it won't won't dilute by sharing it with others, which is a weird. Again, I just feel very elitist.
Yeah.
But it allows you to have a special thing.
Yeah. So that's another reason why campaigns are great, because they're something that no one else can have. I mean, we played Rise of the Rune Lords, which is a published 400, 500 page book of adventures that goes all the way from being, you get killed by tripping over characters to characters that, I mean, literally we fought something that was almost a god and won. So you have this kind of that huge epic scope and that development that you talked about. My character, Mouse the Cleric, was not the same character at the end as she was at the beginning. Around about 7th level, she realised that she'd secretly been raised in an evil death cult. But she didn't know. And they'd sent her off to go and preach the good word of the goddess of death, just to get rid of her. Because they weren't allowed to kill their own. So the goddess that she worshipped was a neutral goddess. So you can be in Pathfinder or D&D, you have 9 different alignments, and you have to be one step within your god. It allows you for differences in doctrine, differences in interpretation, different aspects of the same god, like god of the sun and war. Well, the people who worship it as the sun aren't going to say the same mumbo jumbo as the ones who worship in war, and their worship will be different. So she was neutral good within one step of the church, the god. The rest of her church were neutral evil. Still within one step. Just the opposite step to her. They weren't allowed to murder their own. They had a code, so they just got rid of her. But she was so relentlessly upbeat and positive that she just kind of remembered the good bits and glossed over it, and then would sometimes get, like, someone would say something, she'd be like, oh, that's what happened when I was 7. Not in a creepy way.
No. Like, but she realised she'd watched somebody be murdered.
Yeah, whereas she thought it was a play.
Yeah.
Or she thought it was a joke. It's like, that's why I never saw him again. Oh, that's why the novices that failed the test went away. I thought they went to live on a farm. It was that kind of thing. And by the end of it, she was like a walking avatar of that aspect of the god. And if the campaign had continued, her goal was to hunt down the evil version of her own church and convert them, either spiritually or physically. But yeah, very different sort of character. One form of thing that might affect your players is conflict, either between players or between their characters. Now, conflict between characters is easier to deal with. If 2 characters are so completely at loggerheads that they cannot continue, one of them walks away, someone makes a new character. I've had roleplay parties that have split almost down the middle in games where I've presented them with something. I'm a bit of a terrible DM in the sense that I'm quite happy to foster player conflict, hopefully because the players will come together through it. I mean, I recently sent a group into, and they're a fairly new group, they've roleplayed before but not a lot overall across the group. I sent them off to do a thing and they all had a contradictory mission. They were all achieving the same thing, but they all had a sort of different ending that they wanted, or a different little sub-mission that was going on. And there was conflict, but they held it together against the bigger enemy, etc., etc. Now, eventually, further down the line, those lines might crack. As a DM, I kind of need to give them something to bring them back together and a reason to work together. So I don't do it too much. But sometimes I've had 2 players want to do one thing and 3 players want to do another. And I'm like, okay, you 2 make new characters. And we followed that for a bit. And then we did a little side session with the other 2 characters, the original ones. The other 3 made people. Did a little thing. In fact, only 2 of them made people. I did it off the cuff because someone couldn't make it. But we went back to them, so they didn't feel too cheated. But yeah, you majority rules, democracy, yay! So I find character conflict is easier to deal with because you can just cool cut on the scene and just be like, cool, what are we doing? How's this going to go? Explain why. Because sometimes it can feel like you're arguing with a person in real life. Like, I've had stuff when we've been playing Vampires, Aaron, where I've been having a go at you. My character has been having a go at your character, but I've got quite heated. And then I realised, oh, what if Aaron doesn't like? What if Aaron thinks I'm really angry at him? Because I wasn't.
No.
But sometimes that can be hard.
For a brief moment, yeah, your brain goes,
Well,
I'm having an argument with this person, right, fight back.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, hang on, it's a character, no, it's fine.
Yeah, and some people aren't comfortable as well with that conflict.
Yeah.
Different people deal with conflict in different ways for various reasons. So, cut, deal with it, come to some kind of agreement. I've had players that have worked out how the scene's going to play out before they've played it out.
Yeah, that's not.
They've talked about it and gone, right, this is what I think should happen. Or my character would probably give in if you mention this thing you haven't mentioned that I know about, and I was kind of waiting for you to say it. Oh, I didn't realise. Cool. And we've either gone, cool, so you say that to him and you let him do it? Yeah, fine. Or we kind of pick up the scene and depending on, the exact moment and what's going to happen. Conflict between players out of the game is much more difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Pathfinder RPG Facebook group, and it feels like every third post is, this person's done a thing in my game, what should I do?
Yeah.
And it's not character, it kind of overlaps with the rules quite often. But really, it's a clash of personalities, a clash of people rather than anything really to do with the game.
Yeah.
If those people were sat watching a Premier League football match, they'd be conflict. If they were in the library together, there'd be conflict. If they were, walking down the street, there'd be conflict.
Yeah.
It's not to do really with the game quite often. This is where it gets weird because there's how far does the DM's role extend into dealing with that? Because they're in charge of everyone having fun, really.
Yeah.
Organised fun! The best kind of fun.
I think rather than necessarily intervening with those two players, I mean, obviously if they're getting into an argument, people probably look to the DM as the person in charge. So if the DM goes, right, just stop for a second and we break up.
Yeah.
That will at least break up, make everybody aware that the gameplay has stopped at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe this is actual argument and start intervening, but as a group maybe.
Yeah.
And discussing it probably with the other players.
Yeah. Because sometimes poor player behaviour in-game can be a symptom of something outside of it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's where maybe that can become a little bit tricky if you can't resolve a thing.
Yeah.
Because he's always telling me what to do. For the last 10 years. That kind of thing. Then maybe it's a bit different.
Yeah.
There's kind of different roles. A, on who's running the game. B, on who's hosting the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're causing a scene in someone's house.
Yeah.
Or flat. Or cardboard box.
Yeah.
That's fine. If you're role playing at a gaming club, who's in charge of the gaming club? Is it disrupting the people around you?
Yeah.
Is the DM, is it a sanctioned gaming club event where the DM is in charge and it's a thing and you sign up with them? Therefore, they are actually in charge of that stuff. You've got to negotiate the social dynamics, really.
Yeah.
And this can happen in smaller games. Most of these things can happen in smaller games, but they tend to be more of an issue. And I think we said the development and the investment is a real strong thing and why we love campaigns.
Yeah.
It can also be a source of conflict if two players want very different things.
Yeah.
And they're both so invested in the game that they don't want to give in, they don't want to surrender, they don't want their character to be the one that's written out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Becomes tricky.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think there's any ideal solution to that situation.
No, it's communicate.
Yeah.
Is it fun?
Yeah.
Sometimes, sadly, in life, you have to go, okay, this is making things not fun for everyone, or making things bad for everyone. Who is causing this?
Yeah.
Is it both of them? Is it one of them? If it's one of them, you can probably guess what I'm going to say. As horrible as that is, I had a player in one of my games. We used to game in my front room. I had a little coffee table that we couldn't really get round, so everyone sat round. I had a little desk in the corner at my computer. There were two people on the sofa, and I had two armchairs. Very snug. Very snug. A lot of that furniture eventually was burnt as an offering to the great Cthulhu. And that's where I got this beard. But my then partner was tidying up and she found used old oily, greasy fish and chip papers stuffed down the side of the cushion of the armchair.
Well, that's out of order.
It is, isn't it? And it caused conflict in real life away from the game between me and my then partner. And I told that person, who was someone I'd known for quite a while, I was like, you can't come back to my game because she'll kill you. But what on earth are you playing at?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the only thing. There'd been other issues with the game and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, what are you playing at? And he kind of tried to laugh it off, and I just went, no, you can't come anymore.
Yeah.
And just wrote his character up.
Yeah. And like you said, it's harsh, it does sound horrible, but equally, if one person is ruining for a whole group of people, and is in fact damaging the place that they've come to play the game at, then they're not probably that good of a friend to be hanging around with at that point in time anyway. It might be fine for other situations, but as far as
I talked to them because if they were like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry, I just put it down the side of the thing because I couldn't reach the bin and it was something was happening or whatever," I'd have been like, "Could you apologise or something?" But the way he just kind of tried to laugh it off. I don't know if that was because some people do that when there's conflict. They get involved.
Try to make a joke.
But I literally wrote them out by saying they were like, "Oh, where's their character?" And I went, "Oh, they've got bored and wandered off."
Fair enough. Yeah.
Not the best DMing move. Can't recommend it, but we all moved on.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. You know,
I didn't say that in real life. They're like, "Oh, where's so and so?" And he's gone. I did say.
Yeah.
I was like, he fucking did this, and then he laughed about it.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Ooh."
Yeah. And again, it comes back down to rule number 3, essentially. Like, communicate. I think we should solidify as well as well.
I had someone who used to piss on the seat of my toilet as well. Yeah, I know. People
pee on the floor like any normal person.
Yeah,
that's fine. Everybody expects you to splash there, but not on the seat.
Wise words of wonderful wisdom, Aaron. So if there's player misbehaviour, try to work out why.
Yeah.
Again, it's all communication. I think, as I was saying ages ago, we don't communicate properly, and it's hard and it's difficult to kind of do that, and sometimes someone has to take the reins, whether that's the host, whether that's the DM. They both have a level of authority there. This is my house, this is my game, I'm running the game, you defer to my judgment.
But also, as a player yourself, being aware of your own actions. I mean, most people
I'm hideously unaware. I do things and then 5 minutes later go, that was a dumb fucking idea, Brian. Why did you do that?
Well, that's the thing. You're being reflective. That's fine.
Yeah, I tend to be quite apologetic when that happens.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why it's not an issue.
Yeah.
You know, if you do something and go, that was douchey, I shouldn't have said that or done that, or being disrespectful, just acknowledge it. Bring it up to the other people, apologise.
Yeah.
Because, you're playing with your friends.
Yes.
You make a mistake, it's fine. They're not going to hate you for it. Just own it. Don't just go dismiss it as nothing. Because obviously, if it's bothered somebody, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. We've been talking for ages, Aaron.
We have, yeah.
Should we soldier on just for a little bit longer?
Yeah. Go on.
Cool. When it comes to sort of telling a story or linking, even if you're just doing something that links combat encounters together, you want to have a session that, ideally, every session should start with something interesting.
Yeah.
I always get the players themselves, to do a recap.
Yes.
I get the players to tell me to get them thinking again. And I've done various things. I've offered XP for a good recap.
Yeah. I've
had a think go, these are the 3 things I think are really important right now, and whoever says them will get a shiny. I've given out rerolls.
Sweets.
Sweets. We've done stuff with sweets. People will do all sorts of stuff they wouldn't normally if you just offer them a little chewy thing.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. I've done different ways of recapping as well. So I've gone, tell me what your character thinks happened. Get them to do it in character.
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting thing to do.
Yes.
If your players are confident. I think I recapped. I was asked to recap, and I did a recap for Vampire in character.
Yeah.
And you're all looking at me like I was scum because I revealed basically that my character had utter contempt for everyone around him, was pretending to be nice. I was like, that idiot over there did this really stupid thing, and that was you, and you look at me like, but you went along with it, because I didn't have a choice to go along with it. So I've done this and I've done that. And what I'm really hoping to do is this.
Yeah.
And for me, I enjoy it. It got me right back into the game.
Yeah. And I think it helped drag the other people in as well. Sort of suddenly remember how all these characters are.
Yeah. And it can be nice to finish a session on like a little cliffhanger, something interesting.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a really big bad guy to fight, or a big monster, or there's a plot twist, a revelation, you know, Scooby-Doo pulls the guy's head off and it's the park owner.
Yeah.
That's the point where you can stop in a campaign, you can stop at that point and come back to it. And then suddenly you've got like a big impetus to start.
Yeah.
I love a session that begins with, cool, so that's the recap, roll initiative. I love a session that starts like that. Doesn't necessarily have to be a massive fight.
It can be carry on that discussion you were having then.
Or a session that's like, so the prince looks at you and says, which one of you killed my daughter? Go.
Yeah.
And you're like, and it's the kind of thing that makes me think about the game between sessions.
Yes.
That's one of the things that I feel makes me feel like it's been a good session, is when the players are talking about it between then and the next session.
Yeah.
We have chat groups. I have chat groups for all my different roleplay campaigns, so we can organise it. You know, where we at Friday.
Yeah.
Who's bringing the beef, that kind of thing. Both, you know, physical and metaphorical.
Yeah, both are highly important, necessary for a campaign. Rule 4, in fact.
Yeah, beef. You need conflict for a story. It'd be rubbish otherwise. But when people are just discussing things or talking about stuff in it, that's great. I love that. Makes me happy.
Yeah.
To see, as a DM, to see my players like, oh, will you just wait till next week? Or, I can't believe you did that thing. You know, it can go backwards as well as forwards, but
yeah.
You know, that's a really good sign. So I like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's good. It's kind of run its course now as a topic of conversation. One other thing I've done, I've started doing it recently, I haven't done it for a while actually, is I got my group, because we've got quite a complex campaign going on. They're only on like the 3rd or 4th session, and I've thrown too many hooks out.
Yeah.
I've got a George R.R. Martin cast of hundreds already, and I can't remember who's got which voice, because I can only do about 7 voices, each worse than the last. And so I got the players to write down 2 goals: a short-term goal that they think they could achieve either in the course of the session or in like the next week of like game time, as in like the characters' week, and a long-term goal, something they wanted to achieve by the end of the campaign or within a year. Got them to write them down secretly. They gave them to me. I pinned them up on the inside of my DM screen, and I used them to start to motivate what I was doing and to drag the characters in.
Yeah.
Even if your DM isn't asking you for it, as a player, having a goal makes you invested.
Yes.
Having a goal allows you to deal with a situation. This bad thing's happened. Cool. Well, actually, I kind of want it to carry on happening. No, I'm not. I want paying. Give me $10,000, Aaron.
Yeah.
Just I did to you the other week.
Yeah.
Pay me. I don't want to be involved. Got me out of it.
Yeah.
Kind of called my bluff a little bit. I didn't think you'd pay me, and then I could have walked away.
Yeah.
But you know, that was motivated by my character's goal.
Yes.
That I knew. So yeah, that can also help you out of sort of like dead ends in the story. You ever had a session where you like the DM's like, what do you do next? And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, Mutant Gen Lab Alpha.
Yeah.
There was a couple of moments in that.
Yeah.
Where things had just gone so much to shit.
Yeah.
Things had just obliterated around us. That none of us, our characters, were in a position where we could get back to our species.
Yeah.
Each of the species in different areas of the map. Although you're joined together as a resistance to fight off your captors, essentially, in this area of location, which we were miles away from and was dangerous to go back to.
Yeah.
In the middle of a weird location, with no real idea of where to go, because we couldn't really bring each other to each other's areas because it was too dangerous, and we weren't really allowed to. So theoretically, we should split up, but splitting up was dangerous. I just got on a complete dead end with it. I think we spent about an hour or two,
Yeah.
arguing in and out of character
Yes.
about where the hell to go and what we should be doing next, and just got stuck completely. And again, it's the DM had put stuff in place for us to follow and do, but we'd got so hyper focused on a particular element that we forgot about those other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Stuck.
Yeah, sometimes it's worth just at the start of the session, like going, what are we doing? Where are we going?
Yes.
I did, a complicated Cthulhu campaign where there was a big overarching sort of mystery plot going on that I ended up simplifying because it was starting to run its course.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that at the end. So the players got a whiteboard and wrote on it, and it was a physical thing that existed in the game. It was a chalkboard because it was a Victorian era London by Gaslight game.
Yeah.
So in their headquarters was this chalkboard, and it had like their doodles and stuff, and they used it just to keep track of everything that was going on.
Yeah.
But that was quite useful because it was something they could go back to and go, right, what's happening.
Yeah.
I've seen players create mind maps to try and work stuff out.
Yeah.
But just think, if you don't know what to do, work it from your character. What's my goal? What am I doing? What does my character want?
Yeah.
Even if your character wants to survive, it's like, okay, so what's the best way to survive? And if that way is to murder everyone and eat them, go, is that compatible with my character's morals? No? Okay, what else can you do?
Yeah.
Don't know? Okay, so how tempted are you to kill everyone and eat them? What would you, and just try to work it from there.
Yeah.
And it can help the DM because, as I said, I throw out hooks. I don't know which ones have landed.
Yeah.
Because some players don't go, I think we should do this, but they make a note.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to do. But their character or the player isn't the kind of person to reveal that.
Yeah.
No.
And, it doesn't have to be all about the big overarching plot all the time. Like you said, it could be as simple as, how do I live through something?
Yeah.
You can look smaller. The thing with these big campaigns that you can get a little bit stuck on, how do we get the story moving?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's perfectly okay to go with, like, hey, I'm hungry, where's the nearest place to get food?
Yeah.
And you can turn that into an interesting and fun role-play session, even if it's just you arguing over dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are all ways of growing your character, and even just giving a little tiny story hooks for the DM to work with.
I feel at the end of a good campaign, we could role-play the characters having dinner.
Yeah.
In character, talk for the whole session, because there's enough history there's enough personality there's enough sort of quirk and interest to those characters that they could just talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because they feel real at that point. Yeah, so I think that's good if you can get to that point. That's almost like, to me, that's kind of the goal. I mean, I'm a very story-driven role player.
Yeah.
I like rules and systems.
Yeah.
They help.
Take some of the
pressure off. And they make things fair.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you've got to find out if you can do the thing or not. But they're not, for me, they're not the be-all and end-all. For some people, they are.
Yeah.
And it's more of a war game or a board game for them, and the storytelling generally tends to be off to the side.
Yeah.
That's fine. But again, that session 0...
You need to find out what sort of players you're playing.
Yeah. I've often found myself playing a sort of compromise in the middle because I know I'm at one end.
Yeah.
And there'll normally be someone else who's at the other end. So the natural thing is to kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah.
So I maybe don't get to talk to every peasant in town like some kind of weird video game character who's just pressing X in the hope that money will pop out of someone. But then they don't get to just fight, drink a potion, fight, drink a potion, fight, go to sleep, fight. There's bits in there. So yeah, it kind of goes through it. One thing I'd say as a DM is make sure you keep a lot of notes.
Yeah.
Players should make notes as well.
Yes.
You don't have to write down everything that happens, but anything interesting, anything your character would kind of make a mental note of, or be like, oh, that was interesting, something that would stick in your character's memory, write it down, because you're only that character once a fortnight, you're not going to remember.
Yeah.
People tend to make lots of notes and then never look back at them.
Mm.
And I've said at the beginning of recaps, I've said, look at your notes. Who would like to recap? Because for me as a DM, I've given you all the pieces, but you've forgotten one of the 3 of them because they were 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I can get you there, but it's easier if you read your notes and go, oh yeah, that guy called Jeff had a wart on his nose and so did Susan. Maybe it's the same person. Or whatever the MacGuffin may be. So, yeah, that's kind of a really potted history. I think the other one thing we haven't touched on is the loss of a player character.
Mm.
And I think it ties in with another thing, is that if you know exactly what your character would do in every situation, that's a good starting point. But people do change.
Yes.
Characters change. And I've lost a really good, really interesting, well-developed character from a campaign because they just became so rigid and ended up completely going against what the rest of the group wanted, so they were the character that was removed.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, to me, I was like, would you not compromise on this? You've compromised on other things. No. Sometimes that's okay, but that player was really gutted to lose that character. It's like, well, can you not find some kind of thing? That character just doesn't cease to exist when you're not there, almost.
Yeah.
Does that make if they're a developed person, they would carry on. They'd have to deal with that situation rather than just going, I don't know what to do. I'm just out.
Yeah.
So keep things adaptable. Allow your character to learn from their experiences. A character that once was brave but becomes a coward because they nearly died is an interesting character.
Yeah.
A character that was a coward, nearly died and came back and now thinks they're invincible and charges headlong into every situation is an interesting character. And your fellow players will have seen the events. You talked about seeing a character go through grief.
Yeah.
Your character dies, that should affect all of the other characters. I've turned around to one player and told their new character that they could fuck off, they'll never replace my great friend. And that player both smiled at me and then scowled at me, so they were like, well, that's great, but I'm fucking here as this new person. I was like, you've got to prove it. You've got to prove yourself because you do. So you carry, and the character was still upset about the death.
Yeah.
And they needed someone to heal the party. So they went and hired someone to do it, but that's not Tim. Tim's dead, and Tim was my friend, and this new guy's replacing Tim. It's why you don't buy a cat too soon after your first one gets run over. You have to have a break, and learn to drive safely. Realised that was horrible. So allow your characters to adapt, and the same thing. If a character dies, it should be. I mean, if you're playing like Pathfinder Core, then they can come back.
Yeah.
Friend of podcast Rob had a character who I really liked. I was running the game at the siege I mentioned before, and he died at the siege, and he was buried with full military honours, wearing his magical armour with his father's sword across his chest, and they put a monument to this character in the city. I think he had a fountain or something, and it was all very good. And then he made a new character, and it wasn't until 3 months later when they were like, "Oh, we miss Hashek," and he was like, well, "Why didn't you fucking reincarnate him then? You had enough money." And they were like, "Oh, we didn't think of that." So your game may deal with these things differently, but a character death can be a good thing in the sense it can almost can relieve that burnout. I was a player and another player died in a combat quite brutally, and I hated the character that did it. And then a month later I found out that the DM and the player had talked. He wasn't enjoying playing the character, and he was like, kill me in the session. He was like, okay, I'll kill you. And he faked it. It was quite good, but they'd made it into a thing, and it motivated the rest of the group. If you lose a character you really like, that sucks.
Yeah, it can hurt.
I kind of threw my toys out the pram when my 4-armed Gen Lab dog died.
Yeah.
I got a bit annoyed.
Yeah. But
it's fine. Murakami didn't die, but he did get captured.
Yeah.
And I missed Murakami. Yeah. And then I got really attached to this new character, and then that one died. And I was like, all my characters are dying. Yeah. And it can become difficult to have a long-term story if all of your characters die.
Yeah.
I tend to up the lethality level in a one-shot game.
Yeah.
Because if you die, it doesn't necessarily matter.
No.
in a campaign, I feel it's kind of written. You need to have, especially if you're playing a combat-based system, you have to have that risk of bad stuff happening.
Yeah.
So that it balances out, and it's not like, oh, well, we win every fight and we can't lose.
Yeah.
But who says that a character that the dice say dies actually dies?
No.
So I've rolled enough damage to kill characters.
Yeah.
And I've knocked them down to almost dead and chopped a hand off.
Yeah.
I've massively scarred their face. They've lost an eye. I have smashed the ancestral weapon that is the living embodiment of their honour. And if the character's like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, that's what it says. But I'll talk to them sort of out of the game, or just be like, do you want to be dead, or do you want a thing?
Yeah.
And people tend to want a thing if they like their characters.
Yeah.
You can do all sorts of things with it without necessarily killing them.
Yeah. You've given them another hook to deal with.
Yes.
Probably quite literally if you chop the hand off.
Yeah. It's the Abu Hamza gambit.
Yeah.
Who is my least favourite X-Man.
Yeah, but they're now having to overcome a significant loss in some fashion.
Yes. Yeah.
And deal with that.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
can become their new long-term goals.
Again, some players are like, well, the dice said I'm dead, I'm dead. Some people are really rigid and fixed on the rules. Again, not my style, but if you've had your session 0 and you know that that's what that person's really like, that's fine.
Yeah.
If they try to impose that on others, that can become a problem. Like, oh, well, he should be dead. Why is his character just maimed? Yeah. I'm like, well, meh. Life is hard.
And that's when you fix it.
Again, you talk outside of character about why you've done it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, rule 1, have fun.
Yeah. You enjoy the concept of your character dying and moving on. This person doesn't.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
rather than ruin the game.
We've had a long-standing joke for years that the more the DM likes your character, the less likely you are to die.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
Because we're not the kind of people that rigidly stick to all the rules.
No.
The DM would rather do something horrible to you and see the character continue to develop than just end it.
Yeah.
And stop it. Because, that's not necessarily fun. Sometimes an unexpected death can be good.
Yeah.
It's all just down to you and your players and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you lose a player in real life, hopefully they haven't died, but if someone has a child and has to leave, I wouldn't know what to do if we were in the middle of a roleplay campaign and someone died who was actually in real life. I don't think I could go back and play it.
No,
we're done.
I think we'd have to stop.
We're done.
Yeah.
I think I might cry every time you roll a dice.
Yeah.
But, if they can't make it, if they move away, people have to move.
Yeah.
The police start to close in. They work out where you live. You have to, dye your moustache and move on. It's, it's life.
Yeah.
It's life.
You take some of your mark notes from them and leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah. And one day you'll meet up with them on a beach, and one of you will be Morgan Freeman, and the other one will be Tim Robbins, and everything will be fine.
Although hopefully one of you won't have to get covered in poop to get to that point.
I'm covered in poop for probably about 10% of every day, actually.
Yeah.
I'm just a messy shitter. Some people are messy eaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a messy shitter. Yeah, it's a gift. It's a curse. It's who I am, and I'm proud of it. Where the fuck were we?
No idea.
If someone has to leave the game,
you
can weave it into the story. If they're gone for a month, maybe their character's been kidnapped or gone missing.
Yeah.
If they're gone permanently, have someone kill that character. If they're definitely not coming back, have someone kill that character.
Yeah.
Have that character betray the party and leave.
Yeah.
Especially if they feel a bit betrayed in real life. No one's going to say it, but yeah, quite good. Yeah, potentially. If you think they might come back, leave the door open.
Yeah.
They can become a really cool NPC.
Yeah.
I've been shot, taken an arrow to the knee, but I'm going to guard the fuck out of this town. And any time you're in town, you come round my house and we'll have stew. Whoever he is.
Jeff again.
Yeah.
It's always Jeff.
But,
you slated beyond all belief by now.
Yeah, you can do all sorts of things with these characters.
Yeah.
And, it's quite a nice thing to do. So, the last thing to do then. You've run a glorious campaign. You've come up against a couple of these things. Everyone's still having fun.
Yeah.
Rule 1. It's all still enjoyable.
Yeah.
So you're going to plough on. But maybe everyone's now reaching that point where we're burnt out.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to play the latest hotness that's just come out. Maybe you're playing Pathfinder and Pathfinder 2.0 is about to come out, and you're like, I don't want to convert my 18th level monk, wizard, artificer, half demigorgon lily to something or other to this new thing. Yeah. Or you're just like, you know what? You fucking got to Mount Doom. There's the volcano. There's the ring. Stories have to end somewhere. They do, don't they? You know, nothing carries on forever. Everything dies eventually. Everyone you ever know will die. Everything you ever love will crumble to dust. I've got distracted again, haven't I? You know, you want to end a campaign hopefully in a memorable way. Generally, in a campaign, you'll have subplots and side bits. You probably won't be able to tie all of them up.
No.
You could do like a little narrated epilogue to tie up things. I've done that.
Yeah, just very Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, like the camera panning and you see all the characters, or like, you know, that montage. You can do that verbally. That's a cool thing.
Yeah, you don't need to literally pause in real life and then have some text appear underneath you explaining what happened to you at the end of the campaign. Yeah. Talk about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's really awkward if you sit there with a weird smirk on your face and just holding a piece of paper for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I'm going to do that. It might work in a fiasco game. But you want to finish the main plot. You want to give a sense of closure. And this is where I up the lethality level again to the level of a one-shot.
Yeah.
So the stakes. And it's also the stakes in-game for the characters as well.
Yeah.
If you've saved the world 3 times, you don't want to finish with an adventure where you get a dog out of a tree, as an extreme example. It's our last mission together, guys. I'll just zap it. Catch it. Cool, it's done. Deep fried dog.
Yeah.
Up the stakes. So all those NPCs that they've made friends with.
Yeah.
How many of them can you put in harm's way? How many lovers can be in peril? How many lineages can be threatened? How many organisations that they've fought for or established themselves?
Yeah.
How many of those can be threatened? So you up the stakes. And if you can bring it down to a kind of a single do or die scene where you fight the bad guy, if you win, everything is good. If you lose, well, actually, you know this time you're dead. No mercy, no quarter. You guys have hated each other for the last 2 years of real time.
Yeah.
This is it. That's kind of, to me, that's like the big goal, isn't it? That climax.
Yes.
You reach a sturdy climax, Aaron. You built, you know, you have peaks and troughs. You want to have the biggest peak that you can to finish the campaign on a sort of on a high note, really. I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but Mouse in our Rise of the Rune Lords campaign had long had a crush on our elven archer, played by Colin.
Yeah.
He was the first guy she ever kissed because she cast Breath of Life and breathed into his lungs and brought him back to life. She'd never kissed anyone before because she believed, quite naively, that her first kiss would be her first love.
Yeah.
That was her first kiss. And that had been like a year in game time before.
Yeah.
And had just been kind of healing him more. Like fluttering her eyelashes at him occasionally. Colin didn't fucking notice. Don't know if anyone else around the table noticed. Yeah? Okay, cool. Glad it wasn't just me. I was like, maybe I'm just really bad at these things.
No, it was like really unsubtle in that kind of, I've never experienced this before, way that some people do acting.
Yeah.
And
good.
Yeah, actually, I kind of feel like Colin's character being completely oblivious to it is almost how it would be. Sometimes it's like nobody acts like that; they're just being silly.
Yes, and this was a cross species relationship. So she was a halfling and he was an elf.
Yeah,
still is probably. And I knew we were going into that final fight.
Yeah.
Because everything had built up and it would make no sense for it not to be the final fight through the interdimensional portal into the plate. Yeah. And B, I could see that the DM was running out of pages in his book. That's normally a good sign that you're at the end of something.
Yeah.
And so as we went in through the portal, I just grabbed Colin's arm. Well, you know, I did it in real life. And I looked deep into his eyes and in character I said, if I don't make it out, you have to know I've always loved you. And then I ran off through the portal. It's a beautiful moment, Aaron.
Yeah, it was.
Sport only by me teleporting back to the base of the dungeon and us having to walk the fucker all the way back through everything we'd done.
Yeah.
In really awkward kind of silence.
Yeah.
It was glorious. It really undercut everything, but it was funny as hell. And it was enjoyable. And that was years ago, and I remember it. But I would never have said that if I didn't know that the end was kind of coming. It felt like that do or die, everything's on the line kind of moment.
Yeah.
There is a tendency in role-playing games for characters to get more and more powerful and accrue more and more things and more toys and more power and more influence as they go along. And you can up the stakes. But it comes a point where it's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you can take away those toys and you can take away that power and you can do other things to bring them back down to earth for the sake of serving the story and giving them a final challenge to overcome. So that's good.
Yeah.
Have you finished the campaign with me?
Just that Rise to Rune's one, which I wasn't there at the start of.
Yeah. You finished the mini campaign, these sort of 8 sessions of Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Did that end in a satisfactory way for you? It's all right if it didn't.
No, it did. But it was not a good ending, like as in we won kind of thing, because we didn't.
Yeah.
We lost, but it was a satisfying ending. It felt like an ending.
Yeah.
We had reached a conclusion. It was a horrible, dark conclusion, but we reached a conclusion.
Yeah.
And it was there was something definitely final about it. It really did feel like we either walk away from this or we don't now.
Yeah.
And that makes you want to finish it. Because like you said, you don't necessarily want to finish a campaign because you're enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
So you need to make them feel like finishing it is worth it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely come across.
Cool. Excellent. And I will rest easy in my bed tonight. Apart from all the crying, but that's every night. Yeah. So hopefully somewhere in there's been some good tips on some of the problems you might face in a campaign. Hopefully some solutions to that. But as I said, I was going to say right back at the beginning, but it weren't at the beginning. It's about 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
It has to be fun. If everyone's enjoying themselves, it's fine. Don't force it. We've abandoned campaigns partway through because it wasn't working, because it wasn't the thing. We played Curse of the Crimson Throne recently, which was actually the thing that started us wanting to do this podcast.
Yeah.
And we're only now an hour and 45 minutes before editing talking about it. We played 6 sessions.
Yeah.
And we were like, I just realised as a DM that not only was I not particularly having fun, the players didn't seem to particularly be having much fun.
Yeah.
And we talked about it and we did something else.
Yeah.
Because the tone wasn't right.
Yeah.
We weren't enjoying the combats particularly. No. The tone didn't feel right because everyone was kind of expected to care about the city in that campaign really, really quickly, and it was really awkward. If it was up to me, well, it was up to me. If I'd have thought about it, or if I'd realised if I was to use that book again, I'd have a much more extended beginning.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't have known necessarily about reading the entire thing first, and that's not always plausible. Nobody has that amount of time.
But it seemed really interesting.
Yeah, it did.
But it just didn't.
Was really cool.
It didn't work in execution, and that not necessarily the book's fault, but it wasn't really working. The players had come up with cool backstories for. And it really helped you get these backstories for why they were involved. They were grouped together. It won't spoil it because it's literally page 1.
Yeah.
They all come together to hunt down someone who's done them wrong.
Yeah.
They don't know each other necessarily. They've all been wronged by this person.
Yeah.
What happens at the end of the first dungeon, Aaron? Which is a fishery. This is a spoiler.
You deal with it. You're with them. That person is now no longer.
That person dies.
Yeah. I mean, you don't necessarily have to kill them, I suppose, but...
Or is brought to justice.
Yeah.
And then the city is set on fire and there's a big riot.
Yeah.
Which is, it's meant to be the impetus for the rest of the campaign. But why are you still together? You met these people yesterday, you murdered a guy together, and now your house is on fire. I
mean, some of the characters that we created only existed in the city because they had to, because of what this guy had done to them.
Yeah.
So they didn't have any natural allegiance to the city in any way, shape or form. The problem's dealt. What's stopping them from now leaving? It's all on fire. Why would I care?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't wasn't implied early enough in the book for you to create a character that would also have that as an impetus as well.
Yeah. And mostly our session 0 was, I'm going to run this. Do people want to play it? Yes, cool. What kind of characters do you want? Make your backstories.
Yeah.
It didn't include world building or tying your characters in necessarily because you didn't need to. Maybe we could have done a bit more.
Yeah.
But with 5 players all pulling in different directions, it would have been very, very bitty and very difficult to bring them back together.
Yeah.
So we just walked away from it. It's fine. It didn't work. I can still go into that book, pull out maps, I can pull out character stat blocks, I can pull out names, and I can use them in my game. So it's not wasted money on the book.
No.
It's not going to give us the same nearly 3-year experience of playing the Rise of the Rune Lord book through, but to be honest, I don't think anything has ever given me as much value per pound as my role-playing books.
No.
If you think, like, if you buy a film on DVD for a tenner, I don't know if people even do that anymore, but and you watch that film, if you watch that film 5 times, you've spent £1 an hour. If you buy a video game new and play it for 40 hours, which is a lot of time, especially when you're old like me and Aaron are, you've maybe spent £1 on it. You go to the cinema, you're probably spending near like £10 an hour on your entertainment. You go to the theatre, you might be spending 30, 40, 50, 60 quid an hour. Live stand-up can be £1 an hour, it could be £50 an hour. All things I enjoy, especially the theatre, darling. But I don't go to the theatre very often at all because it's fucking expensive. Whereas we role play every week. My Pathfinder book is falling apart. It cost me 30 quid 5 years ago, and I must have played hundreds of hours of that. You know, I'm probably in the single-digit pennies per hour of play kind of thing. You know, maybe not quite, but you know, getting there. So it doesn't matter.
No.
If you're not having fun, walk away. Find something else fun. Life's too short, man.
If there's something in it, like you said, if there's something in a system you think would be enjoyable, nick it and use it in someone else. Just adapt it.
Use it, steal it. That's fine. No one will know, and if they do, never mind. They shouldn't judge you for it.
As long as they're having fun, tell them to shut up.
Cool. So, hopefully, as I said 5 minutes ago, in the first ending, it's like Lord of the Rings, man. Hopefully that's helped people out, given them ideas on how to keep a campaign running, and some ideas on what to do if their campaign, if the gears are getting a bit clogged up. We're obviously the Critical Twits.
Yes.
We do all sorts of podcasts. We just love games of all kinds, really.
We do.
We like nerd stuff.
We
like comic books. We like films. We like nerdy TV shows.
And
we try to be both entertaining and hilarious. To mix success. So if you enjoy what we do, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends. That would be absolutely awesome. If you could tell your friends. If you don't have any friends to tell, I recommend you join some kind of club or society based around your hobbies and interests. Make some friends and then tell them about us. Because they'll really like it if you do that.
So you'd be that guy who introduced that band.
And you can, in 20 years' time, you can be like, we knew those guys before they were medium-sized. And that'd be absolutely amazing. You can tell your kids. So thank you very much for listening. We'll be back soon.
Yes.
Goodbye.